It's time for QB1 with Chris Phillips. And Chris, we're talking about Derek Carr. Derek Carr is a quarterback that's really interesting to me because he is polarizing for some reason. It's like he doesn't get a lot of respect. And when you look at his track record, though, there are some who say the past is the past, and his relationship with Devontae Adams and the stuff that they've got going with the Raiders could be really special this year. I mean, why do you think he is such a polarizing quarterback that doesn't get some of the respect that other quarterbacks get?
I would think some of it has to do with the fact of where he plays. He plays on the West Coast, so those game times start typically later than a lot of the country likes to stay up and watch. They haven't had a lot of national games either to kind of put the spotlight on him. And, during his career, he's really put up some really good numbers, despite the fact that he's only had 2 winning seasons. And then one of those winning seasons was 2016, when the Raiders were expected to challenge the New England Patriots for the crown of the AFC and represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. In that year, Carr unfortunately broke his leg and missed the remainder of the season. The Raiders were still able to make the playoffs and, have some success in there, but they didn't have nearly the success that they were expecting. Then you follow up that year with 3 losing seasons, and now you kind of get this perception that Carr is a problem, that he's really not as good as people were thinking. And then the truth is that he's actually puts up really good numbers and should be considered one of the better quarterbacks in the league.
What should fans expect from him and Devontae Adams? This is clearly a special relationship off the field, and now people are hoping that it translates all season long on the field too.
Yeah, so from Devontae Adams' perspective, I would think he shouldn't have any sort of statistical drop off. I mean, you're going from Aaron Rodgers, who's a future Hall of Famer, to Derek Carr, who you played with in college, so you have that rapport there. I'm sure the offseason was just the two of them kind of getting back in rhythm. And as we've seen so far, Adams is off to a good start on the season, so I don't think there's any drop off from Adams. For Carr, on the other hand, I would say this is probably going to be the best receiver that he's ever got to play with. I know they had Amari Cooper, but we kind of seen Amari Cooper. He's currently on his third team, and he's looking just okay. So Devontae Adams will definitely be Derek Carr's best receiver, which will lead Derek Carr to having the best season of his career. I mean, if you look at his surrounding cast and his support, he's got Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, Adams, Josh Jacobs. They drafted a rookie, Zamir White, who they're kind of high on as well. So this sets up to have Derek Carr have a really great year.
You mentioned all the pieces that are around him. I would imagine that the expectations for the organization is to make a playoff run here. I mean, would anything less than that be acceptable when you think about who they have offensively?
Yeah, I think the playoffs are definitely a real expectation for the fans. I know in talking with some Raider fans, they're still shocked and baffled the fact that the Raiders are picked to finish dead last in the AFC West. And you consider the moves they made in the offseason to bringing in Chandler Jones. You also have to include that they got a new head coach as well, who's made some big impact to the offense and the overall team and kind of team chemistry, brought some of his guys in that this team shouldn't necessarily be picked to finish last in the AFC West. With that being said, the West is arguably the toughest division, and somebody has to finish last in it. It's very well possible you could see all 4 teams finish with a winning record. I think that's mathematically possible. But I mean, that just kind of goes to show you just how tough that this division is. I mean, you can make a case for any team to finish first and a case to finish last. So the expectations of making the playoffs are definitely in there. I mean, last year, the Raiders made the playoffs. Maybe it was a little bit fluky, but the fact remains they did make it in.
I wonder what you're taking, because I've been kind of going back and forth. You mentioned the AFC West, which is such a gauntlet. These teams are just going to beat each other up all season long because there's so much talent. And so, good thing in one sense that iron sharpens iron, and playing these foes in your division are essentially going to make you better all season long? Or is it really truly a detriment for a team like the Raiders that is going to potentially finish last there and still is looking to make a playoff push and could probably beat so many other teams across the league if they didn't have to contend with some of the best teams in the league a couple times a year?
Right. You just got to look at it and kind of say it's unfortunate because it's, a right time, wrong place kind of situation for them. You look at the AFC West and the Raiders are 0-2, but they've played pretty well. And it's a bit shocking, especially last week losing to Arizona the way they did. It's a bit shocking that happened. Then you look over the AFC South, and the best team in that division is the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are 1-1. and the rest of the division, it hasn't won a game. So, for the Raiders, I think they definitely have the talent to win football games and to make it to the playoffs. It's unfortunate they have to play in the toughest division. I think if you moved them to like the AFC South, I think they'd be running away and possibly being like 2-0, and the talent is just that great for them there. So really, it's just unfortunate they play where they do play.
Just lastly, that kind of picking up where we started, what do you ultimately think it's going to take for people to see Derek Carr, those who aren't on the West Coast, who are awake for those games, and ultimately respect him as a quarterback? And does he have the respect, at least, of the guys who are so talented, who are in his locker room, who want to play for him and who believe in him?
I think the players that play with him and people within the league, maybe not so much like the media necessarily, but the actual players, coaches, organizations, stuff like that, I think they all see that Derek Carr is a talented quarterback and that he is kind of an underrated player. There was a lot of rumblings and rumors that maybe the Raiders would trade Derek Carr just because they wanted a fresh start, and there could definitely be a big bidding war to get Carr because he actually is really talented. Just last season, he was number 5 in yards and in completion percentage, and he ranked number 2 in game-winning drives. Those are some stats that a lot of franchises would like to have their quarterbacks be ranked in. So Carr definitely has the talent and the abilities to be one of the better quarterbacks in there. I think this season he'll put it all together and could challenge to be in the top 5 and really, earn that final bit of respect from everybody that watches football, from fans to media members to everybody, realizing that Derek Carr is one of the better quarterbacks in the AFC and is somebody that, can be a franchise quarterback and be a quarterback that consistently gets to the playoffs and wins games in there.
QB1 with Chris Phillips and Derek Carr. Chris, thanks.
Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more QB1.